Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered if we're truly alone? What if I told you that back in 1977, for just 72 seconds, we might have received a message from the stars? This is the story of the WOW signal, one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in the history of astronomy. Our journey begins on a quiet night, August 15th, 1977, at the Ohio State University's Big Ear Radio Telescope. This wasn't your typical backyard telescope. The Big Ear was a massive instrument, the size of 3 football fields, dedicated to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI. Its job was to scan the cosmos, listening for radio signals that couldn't be explained by natural phenomena. For years, it had heard nothing but the faint hiss of the universe. But on that night, everything changed. A volunteer astronomer named Jerry Ehman was going through the data printouts a few days later. It was a tedious task, looking at endless columns of numbers and letters representing signal strength. But then, something caught his eye. A sequence of characters stood out, stark and undeniable. 6EQUJ5. Now to you and me, that just looks like gibberish. But to an astronomer working on SETI, it was electrifying. In their system, the numbers 1 through 9 represented increasing signal intensity. Once the intensity surpassed 9, they started using letters, with A being stronger than 9, B stronger than A, and so on. This signal, 6EQJ5, started off faint and grew incredibly strong, reaching a peak intensity more than 30 times louder than the background noise of deep space before fading away again. It was a perfect bell curve, exactly what you'd expect from a fixed source being scanned by the telescope's beam. Overwhelmed by what he was seeing, Ehman grabbed a red pen, circled the sequence, and wrote one simple, powerful word in the margin: WOW. So, what made this signal so special? First, its frequency. The signal was detected at 1420 megahertz. This is a very significant number in radio astronomy. It's the frequency at which neutral hydrogen, the most common element in the universe, naturally emits energy. Scientists have long theorized that any intelligent civilization trying to communicate across interstellar distances might use this watering hole frequency, thinking it's a universal constant that any other technologically advanced species would also be looking at. It's like an intergalactic calling card. Second, its nature. The WOW signal was a narrowband signal. Natural cosmic sources, like pulsars or quasars, usually emit radio waves across a broad range of frequencies. But this signal was tightly focused on a very narrow band, which is a hallmark of an artificial transmission. Think of it like tuning your car radio. Natural sources are like static across the whole dial, but an artificial signal is like finding a clear station on one specific number. It suggested intelligence and intent. And third, its origin. The signal appeared to come from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, near a star group called Chi Sagittarii. This region of the sky is dense with stars, but there are no known planets or major celestial objects right at that spot. It was coming from a seemingly empty patch of space, which only deepened the mystery. The scientific community was buzzing. The confirmation that we are not alone? The Big Ear telescope and astronomers all over the world immediately turned their attention back to that exact spot in the sky. They listened and they waited, but the signal never came back. They scanned for days, weeks, months, and even years. They've returned to that spot over 100 times since 1977 with more advanced equipment. But there has been nothing but silence. The fact that it was a one-time event is perhaps the most puzzling part of the WOW signal. If it were a beacon from an alien civilization, why transmit only once? Why for only 72 seconds? This has led to a whole range of theories, from the mundane to the truly extraordinary. Let's start with the skeptical explanations. The most common theory for a long time was that it was simply a terrestrial signal that bounced off a piece of space debris, like a satellite or even a piece of aluminum foil. A signal from Earth could have been reflected back to the telescope, mimicking a signal from deep space. However, the specific 1420 MHz frequency is a protected part of the radio spectrum, reserved for astronomical use. Transmissions on this band are strictly forbidden, making a terrestrial source highly unlikely, though not impossible. Another theory, proposed more recently, suggested the signal came from a comet. In 2017, a team of astronomers argued that two specific comets were in the right part of the sky at the right time. Comets release huge clouds of hydrogen gas as they get closer to the sun, and this hydrogen could, in theory, generate a radio signal at the observed frequency. This seemed like a plausible, natural explanation. It would explain why the signal wasn't seen again. The comets had moved on. However, this theory was quickly challenged. Other scientists pointed out that for a comet to produce a signal that strong, it would have to be releasing an impossibly large amount of hydrogen. Furthermore, when the original team tested their hypothesis on other comets, they couldn't replicate the effect. So the comet theory, while interesting, seems to have been largely debunked. So if it wasn't a signal from Earth, and it wasn't a comet, what was it? This brings us back to the most exciting possibility, an extraterrestrial intelligence. What if the WOW? A deliberate message from another world. Imagine a civilization far away, perhaps orbiting a star in Sagittarius. Maybe they sent out a powerful, targeted beam of information. It could have been a beacon. "We are here" message sweeping across the galaxy. Our planet just happened to be in the path of that beam for 72 fleeting seconds. By the time we tried to listen again, the beam had already moved on, continuing its silent journey through the cosmos. Or perhaps it was something more dramatic. What if it was the signal from a powerful alien propulsion system? A starship engaging a drive or sending a burst of energy for some unknown purpose. It wasn't meant for us, we just happened to overhear it. This would explain why it was so brief and powerful. Another fascinating idea is the interstellar lighthouse concept. Maybe an advanced civilization has set up a network of beacons across the galaxy that pulse periodically. We just caught one pulse, and we'd have to wait for the lighthouse to rotate back our way to see it again. How long would that take? The truth is, after more than 45 years, the WOW signal remains an anomaly. It is the strongest candidate for an alien radio signal ever detected. It ticks all the right boxes. It's on the right frequency. It has the characteristics of an artificial signal, and it came from deep space. Yet, its singular, unrepeated nature keeps it firmly in the realm of mystery. For Jerry Ehman, the man who discovered it, the signal became a lifelong passion. Until his passing, he remained cautiously optimistic, but he never claimed definitively that it was aliens. He was a scientist, and he knew that without repeatable evidence, you can't make such a claim. He once said, "We should have seen it again when we looked for it 50 times. Something suggests it was an Earth-sourced signal that got reflected off a piece of space debris. But even he couldn't completely dismiss the alternative, the story of the WOW. Signal is more than just a scientific curiosity. It's a reminder of the vastness of the universe and our place within it. It represents that deep human desire to connect, to know if there's anyone else out there. It's a moment in time when the universe might have whispered something to us, and we were lucky enough to be listening. Today, the search continues. SETI projects around the world are using technology far more powerful than the Big Ear telescope, scanning millions of star systems simultaneously. We are listening more intently than ever before. Perhaps one day we'll receive another signal, a signal that doesn't disappear, a signal that we can finally answer. But until that day comes, the 72-second whisper from 1977, the WOW signal, will stand as a tantalizing monument to the greatest question of all. Are we alone? What do you think? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching this journey into one of astronomy's greatest mysteries. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the wonders of our universe. See you next time